There are three things that humans need to survive: food, water, and sleep. But those three things can also kill us. You can drown in your water, you can choke on your food, and you can be visited by the shadow people while you sleep. The most famous and the most deadly, of course, being the Hatman. Who is the Hatman? What does he want? And where does he come from? Today, lady and man, we are taking a very deep dive into the history, the lore, and the real evidence behind shadow people and the Hatman. The Hatman is unlike most shadow figures. He's often described as a tall, dark silhouette, sometimes wearing what looks to be a trench coat, but his most defining feature is his wide-brimmed hat. Unlike other shadow people, who are often fleeting and hard to make out, the Hatman feels solid. He's not just a figure lingering in the corner of your eye. He's seen standing, staring, and sometimes even interacting with the people who see him. The figure is so prominent in paranormal circles that he's developed his own story. Unlike ghosts, who are typically tied to specific locations, or poltergeists who are tied to people, the Hatman seems to follow no such rules. He can appear to anyone, anywhere, at any time. And the weird thing is, there is real scientific evidence proving that the Hatman could actually exist, and could genuinely be deadly. And the evidence is pretty fucked up. But we'll get into that at the end of this video. For now, let's learn the history. So where does the Hatman come from? Is he a product of modern folklore, or could he be something more ancient? Weirdly enough, the idea of dark, shadowy figures wearing hats isn't something new. Similar descriptions can be found in stories throughout history, from ancient folklore to modern urban legends, to people taking a little bit too much Benadryl. Some experts believe that the hat itself, a piece of clothing that often represents authority or mystery, could be a symbol our subconscious attaches to figures of power or danger. But even if we acknowledge that and try and debunk the theory there, the question still remains: why are so many different people, from so many different cultures all around the world, seeing this specific figure? To understand the Hatman, we need to take a step back, and we need to explore the broader category of paranormals known as shadow people. These entities have been reported for centuries, with accounts spanning various cultures and countries. Shadow people are usually seen as dark, human-like shapes that appear briefly but then disappear just as quickly. They are often described as being darker than the surrounding darkness, sometimes featureless, and almost always accompanied by the sense of dread. But while most shadow people encounters seem fleeting, just shadows dancing in the corner of your vision, the Hatman often seems to stick around. He's often described as watching, waiting, and much more tangible than the usual shadow figure. There's something about his presence that feels different, more malevolent, and certainly more defined. Unlike other shadow people, the Hatman isn't just an observer from the darkness. Many reports suggest that he's there for a purpose, though no one can quite agree what that purpose is. Some say he's a harbinger of doom, while others believe he's a manifestation of some deeper psychological or spiritual disturbance. Either way, his presence isn't fleeting, and it is never comforting. One of the most common settings for a Hatman encounter is during the terrifying phenomenon known as sleep paralysis. I don't know about you, but I've had sleep paralysis. In fact, it was my second video ever on this channel, and it's fucking terrifying. For those of you who don't know what sleep paralysis is, you're awake, but your body is still in sleep mode. Completely paralyzed, unable to move, speak, or react. All you can do is lie there, helpless, while your mind remains conscious and aware of its surroundings. And this is when things start to get really creepy. During sleep paralysis, people often report seeing dark figures or feeling a presence in the room. And the Hatman is commonly known to be one of those figures, standing at your foot of your bed, hovering over you, and even crouching by your side. The sense of helplessness during sleep paralysis is intense, and the presence of Hatman only amplifies that fear. So let's break down what's happening during sleep paralysis from a scientific perspective. When we sleep, our brain goes through several cycles, and during REM sleep, the phase where most dreaming occurs, our body is effectively paralyzed to prevent us from acting out our dreams. This is a natural protective mechanism, but sometimes the brain wakes up before the body does, leaving us conscious but unable to move. This state can trigger hallucinations, particularly of dark shadow figures, because the brain is still transitioning out of dream state. The Hatman, some skeptics argue, could simply be a figment of those dream-induced hallucinations. Our minds in a panicked state, trying to rationalize the sensation of being watched or being in danger. But here's the thing, not all Hatman sightings happen during sleep paralysis. Some people report seeing him when they're fully awake, going about their daily lives, only to glance up and see him standing in a doorway, in a hallway, or even out in public. And that's what makes it more terrifying. So let's entertain that the Hatman is just a trick of the mind. One of the most common psychological explanations for these encounters is something known as pareidolia, a phenomenon where the brain tries to make sense of patterns by creating familiar shapes, like seeing faces in clouds or figures in shadows. In dark and ambiguous environments, our brains are especially prone to this effect. It's possible that the Hatman is nothing more than a projection of our brain's attempt to make some sense of the darkness, especially in moments of vulnerability like sleep paralysis. But this still doesn't explain the uniformity of the reports. Why do so many people see the same figure, the same hat, and the same menacing presence? Is it just a coincidence that people across different countries, different ages, and different cultures are reporting encounters with the exact same shadowy hat-wearing figure? Or is there something deeper at play here? Something that our collective conscious is tapping into? So let's explore the paranormal side of things for a second. For those who believe the Hatman is more than a psychological trick, there are several compelling theories about what this figure might actually be. One of the most popular theories is that the Hatman is a spiritual or an interdimensional being, something that exists beyond our physical plane, but is capable of crossing into our world under certain conditions. The theory suggests that the Hatman may not be a ghost or a demon, but rather a being from a different dimension, one that occasionally intersects with ours. Some researchers believe that these entities may be able to manipulate our fear, drawing energy from it, which could explain why people feel such dread in his presence. This theory is especially intriguing because it doesn't limit the Hatman to a specific place or person. He can show up anywhere, and that's exactly what makes him so terrifying. He is not tied to a haunted house or an ancient burial ground. He is tied to you. Another theory is that the Hatman is a demonic entity. This explanation stems from the idea that his presence is often accompanied by overwhelming fear and the sense of dread. There are even accounts from people who have claimed to have encounters with the Hatman, and it's led to a string of bad luck or misfortune, further fueling the theory that he's some sort of demonic or malevolent force. And what is absolutely terrifying, and something that all these people that have witnessed him have in common, all those people that have been targeted by the Hatman weren't subscribed to Mariner Jaros. I'm not saying it's a coincidence. One of the most puzzling aspects of the Hatman is his hat. Why does this figure, out of all the shadow people sightings, consistently wear a hat? Not the kind of thing you expect a paranormal ghost to be wearing. Some believe that the hat gives the Hatman a symbol of authority, like a figure from an older time where hats were a symbol of status and power. Others believe that it may be a way for our brains to process the presence of the figure, assigning it something recognizable. After all, hats have been a common part of human fashion for centuries, particularly wide-brimmed hats like fedoras or cowboy hats. Fuck, I hope the Hatman is just the ghost of a Reddit moderator stuck wearing a fedora. But here's an interesting thought. Some paranormal researchers believe that the Hatman's attire could be a clue to his origin. Could he be a spirit or an entity from a specific time period, stuck wearing the clothes of that period? Or is the hat just a psychological tool for our minds to make sense of his presence? The hat, whether symbolic or literal, is the one key reason that the Hatman stands out from other shadow figures. It makes him more real, more defined, and certainly more unsettling. So what do you do if you find yourself face to face with the Hatman? If you wake up and see the Hatman standing next to you, it is important to stay calm. Easier said than done, I know, but sleep paralysis, while terrifying, is temporary, and the figure will disappear when your body fully wakes up. Maybe. So the moment you've all been waiting for, what is the scientific evidence behind the Hatman? Is he real? Well, after some heavy research, I can confidently say I couldn't find any evidence. I just needed you guys to watch until the end of my video so YouTube puts it in the algorithm. Sorry. So where does that leave us with the Hatman? Is he just a manifestation of our deepest fears? A product of sleep paralysis and the mind's ability to play tricks on us? Or is he something more sinister? Something darker that lurks in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to appear? We will never know. Like, share, comment, subscribe.